16 scientists gave up, but a poor secretary discovered the amazing solution in just 3 minutes. In a small Pennsylvania town, a hardworking single mother named Claire lived a life filled with sacrifice and resilience. Once she had dreams of becoming a scientist, but those dreams faded the moment her father, a soldier, lost his life serving his country. Crushed by grief and responsibility, Claire set aside her aspirations to care for her younger siblings and make ends meet as a secretary at the local hospital. Every day she felt smaller and more invisible, her potential overshadowed by the weight of her duties. As she sat behind her desk, surrounded by patients who poured their hearts out, Claire noticed something alarming. An unsettling illness began to creep through the community, sowing fear and confusion. 16 prestigious scientists and medical professionals, each an expert in their field, worked tirelessly, their brilliance like a wall separating them from the souls they were meant to help. While they defined symptoms with cold precision, Claire listened to the stories of those in pain, her heart heavy with their suffering. It wasn't just a physical ailment they were battling, emotional scars rooted deep within. "Claire, don't take on too much," her friend whispered one afternoon. But Claire's heart tightened with resolve. She jotted down notes, capturing the pain, the fears, and the hope. Something clicked. Perhaps the healing these people needed went beyond medicine. What if emotional wounds were tied to their physical ailments? The thought ignited a fire within her. During a tense staff meeting, Claire found herself trembling as she hesitantly proposed merging emotional healing with medical treatment. The room fell silent, yet she was met with condescension. "This is a hospital, Claire," one of the scientists scoffed, "not a therapy session." The dismissal crashed over her like a wave, leaving her despondent, but Claire pushed through. She owed it to her community, her neighbors, and her father. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Driven by a profound sense of duty, Claire walked through town, heart pounding. Gathering her neighbors, she shared stories and thoughts, allowing their words to flow freely. Together they brainstormed, and just like that, a moment of striking clarity emerged. Claire realized that they'd crafted a groundbreaking therapeutic method that entwined emotional healing with medical treatment, a potent remedy that could bridge the chasm between their broken spirits and their ailing bodies. As she prepared to share this revelation, doubt wrapped its icy fingers around her heart. Would these men in lab coats really listen? Could the collective voice of everyday people spur the change that her community so desperately needed? Claire stood at that precipice, the weight of hope and anxiety coiling in her stomach. She began to articulate her discovery in the upcoming meeting. Tension thickened the air. The scientists pondered, while the townsfolk buzzed with a blend of skepticism and hope. How could a humble secretary become the catalyst for healing in a place where the power of medicine had faltered? Claire's voice began to tremble as she sensed the crescendo of emotions swelling around her, blending courage with vulnerability. With her heart racing, she took a deep breath, ready to unleash the truth that could change everything. "Claire, are you ready?" The voice of Dr. Matthews broke through her nerves, pulling her back to the moment. The conference room was buzzing with energy as scientists shuffled their papers, some shooting skeptical glances her way. She could feel their doubt hanging in the air like a heavy fog. Claire nodded, even though her voice felt trapped in her throat. With her heart racing, she stepped forward, clutching her notepad like a lifeline. She could imagine her neighbors sitting in the back, faces etched with a cocktail of hope and fear. Their faith in her surged through her as she looked at them. This was not just her fight. It was theirs. "I believe," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "that to heal the body." She paused and breathed deeply, the silence beckoning her to continue. "To truly heal the body, we must also heal the mind and spirit." As the words left her lips, the room seemed to shrink even further. She focused on the faces of her community. Could they sense her resolve? The stakes felt unbearably high. Dr. Matthews raised an eyebrow, and Claire met his gaze, holding it steady. "What I've seen," she pressed on, "is that many of our patients are suffering not just physically but emotionally. Their pain is intertwined, like a storm brewing inside them. A few murmurs rose from the audience. She pressed forward, recalling the stories of the one she had listened to, the elderly man who cried for his lost wife, the young mother battling anxiety, the kids who were scared to leave their homes. They need someone to hear them. We need to ask how they feel, not just what hurts. Healing isn't just about treating symptoms. It's about compassion, understanding, connection. In that moment, Claire felt the walls closing in on her slowly fade away. One of the scientists leaned back, criticism softened by curiosity. She caught a glimpse of a reluctant nod from another. This was her moment. The community had given her their stories, now she had to give them a voice. As a hospital, we have missed something essential. Together we can build a bridge from the heart to the mind, from emotions to health. We can integrate therapy with our treatments, expand our practices. We must make our wards spaces for emotional healing. A hush fell over the room. She could see the gears turning in the minds of the scientists. What you're suggesting is radical, Dr. Matthews finally said, his eyes narrowing as if weighing the possibility. There it was, her opening. But it also sounds promising. Encouraged, Claire pressed on, her voice gaining momentum. What if we offer support groups? Partnered patients with trained counselors? Hosted community workshops? Healing can be a shared journey. Not just ours but theirs. A ripple of conversation spread through the room, with some nodding while others frowned. The emotions were thick like syrup, rich and invigorating. Claire could feel the collective weight of hope, of disbelief, and even a touch of acceptance. The bubbling excitement surged in her soul. They were listening. But then, just as the energy seemed to swell, a voice cut through. Claire, this is all very nice, but we are scientists. We deal in facts. Emotional healing doesn't have the empirical evidence we require. Claire's heart sank. Doubt flickered through her like a cold wind. Threatening to snuff out her flame, she reminded herself why she was standing there. Why she had fought so hard to gather her community. Did they believe her? Were they ready to join her in the battle against the unseen wounds affecting them all? Drawing in a shaky breath, she steadied her emotions. What if, she said, locking eyes with Dr. Matthews, we embraced a new kind of research? One based in the heart? Emotions need evidence too. As Claire faced the scientists, pinpricks of nervousness danced on her skin. She was at the forefront of something bigger than herself. But would they take that leap with her? Would they believe? Just then a soft voice piped up from the back. What if she's right? Claire turned, her heart leaping. It was Mrs. Thompson, one of the patients she had talked to, with tears shining in her eyes. What if healing can be more than just medication? Can we try it? In that moment of collective vulnerability, an electric sense of possibility ignited. But would the scientists take a chance on Claire's audacious dream? Claire took a step forward, determined to pave the way for those who had lent her their voices. But the question looming heavy in the air stilled her for a heartbeat. Could she save them and herself in truth? What lay ahead would lead them all towards uncharted waters. Claire felt a wave of warmth wash over her. Mrs. Thompson's words had opened a door. The atmosphere in the room buzzed with nervous tension. It was as if everyone was holding their breath, caught between skepticism and hope. Can we try it? The question lingered, echoing in the silence. Dr. Matthews shifted in his seat, his brow furrowing deeper. This is unconventional, he said slowly, but science has a way of evolving. We can't deny that emotional well-being affects physical health. A flicker of hope ignited in Claire's chest. If he was willing to entertain the thought, they might be making headway. She was ready to leap but knew she needed to ground this dream in something tangible. I understand the need for evidence, Claire replied, her heart racing. What if we initiate a pilot program? Measure outcomes of integrating therapy with our treatments? A small-scale study that collects both quantitative and qualitative data? Murmurs of discussion erupted again. Claire could see some scientists nodding, intrigued by the idea. Encouraged, she pressed on. We can track recovery rates, mental health improvements, and patient satisfaction. The stories I've shared can be part of our evidence. Dr. Matthews contemplated the idea, tapping his fingers on the table. It would require funding, personnel, and time. Can you ensure that patients are willing to participate? Absolutely. Claire felt confident, her voice rising with emotion. We've already seen wonderful responses in the community. If we build it together, they'll show up. They want to heal, they want to be heard. The room buzzed with activity as members began to debate logistics. Weighing the pros and cons, Claire's heart thumped in her chest. It felt like watching a ship set sail. I could be the captain of this journey. Then a familiar voice broke through. Yes, we should do this. It was Greg, a junior research assistant Claire had worked with. His enthusiasm was infectious, and like a spark in a darkened space, it illuminated the faces around the table. Returning nods of agreement began to flow like a ripple through water. Can we think of creative ways to engage our patients? Suggested Lisa, an observant biochemist with wide eyes. Art therapy, music therapy. I've read studies showing how they can aid in healing, the ideas spilled forth. Yoga in the park, support groups that included family members, workshops where patients could share experiences. Each suggestion ramped up the excitement in the room, turning skepticism into collaboration. Claire's heart soared. But just as they were riding the wave of shared energy, a sharp voice interrupted. Let us not get ahead of ourselves. This proposal might be overreaching. We need boundaries. It was Dr. Fisher, a hard-nosed researcher notorious for her blunt realism. Without empirical groundwork, we risk losing resources on something that may not yield results. Claire felt her insides twist. Could she lose them now? Had they come this far just to drench the fire with cold water? She took a deep breath and spoke, addressing the point directly. Dr. Fisher, without risk there is no reward. We all know that healing is multifaceted. What if we take that leap? If we're structured and strategic, we can prove it. Dr. Matthews, watching the exchange, leaned forward, visibly torn. If we are to proceed, we must ensure every decision is backed by facts and measurable outcomes. Claire, are you prepared for that? Claire felt the full weight of the moment crash down. Absolutely, she replied, determination hardening her voice. For every patient who has been dismissed, for every story silenced, I'll work tirelessly to bring evidence and compassion together. The room held its breath, the air thick with anticipation. Was it really about to happen? The roller coaster of hope and trepidation swirled inside her. Dr. Matthews looked around the table, assessing the energy just beneath the surface. Then let us form a committee to explore this further, he declared, and Claire could hardly contain her smile. As she exchanged looks of triumph with her allies, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of something extraordinary. But as that hope blossomed, another thought lingered. What would it mean if things didn't go as planned? If their dreams crashed into doubt? With her heart full and her mind racing, Claire knew they were just beginning a precarious dance with emotion and intellect, risk and reward. And just as she felt the tide of change was turning in their favor, a shadow flickered through her thoughts. What if they ventured too deep into the storm? The meeting adjourned, but the energy still crackled in the air. Claire lingered, her heart pounding. Ideas danced in her mind, bursting with potential and possibility. She gathered her notes, her handwriting messy with enthusiasm. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to turn dreams into a reality. As she stepped out of the conference room, she was greeted by Greg, his face alight with excitement. I can't believe they actually agreed to form a committee. This is amazing. Claire nodded eagerly. It feels like we're finally moving forward, like the door has swung wide open. But what happens next? Greg's brow creased with concern. There is so much to do. Research proposals, data gathering. It's daunting. At that moment her excitement dimmed slightly. A mix of self-doubt crept in, like a shadow reminding her that past attempts had ended in disappointment. You're right. What if we can't follow through? No, Greg countered gently. Remember what you said? There will be doubts, but that's part of the journey. Let us keep pushing. Together. Claire could feel her resolve strengthening again as they walked toward the exit. You're right. It's not just about me anymore. It's about all of us, our patients, our community. They reached the street, stepping into the bustling city. The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow over everything, but inside her worry still lurked. She wanted to be a beacon of hope, not just for herself, but for everyone who needed a voice. As they made their way to the local cafe, Claire noticed something had changed. Every person who passed by seemed to bear the weight of their own struggles, some with tired eyes, others wearing forced smiles, but all searching for connection. It struck her once again how vital her mission was. Inside the cafe, they found a corner table where they could talk without distraction. The aroma of brewed coffee enveloped them. Claire leaned in, excitement bubbling back to life. What if we create a launch event for our program? A way to engage the community, gather participants, and kickstart the pilot study? Greg's eyes widened. That sounds perfect. We can have speakers, art displays, share stories. It'll be a festival of healing. Claire's voice trembled with passion as she spoke. Imagine the faces of people who've felt alone. We can bring them together. They need to know they aren't invisible. Just then Claire's phone buzzed. It was a text from Mrs. Thompson, a former patient she had connected with weeks ago. Hey Claire. Just wanted to thank you for everything. Your support means the world. Can't wait to hear about this new project. Tears welled in Claire's eyes. She wiped them away quickly, not wanting Greg to see. We're on the right track, she murmured, and he nodded knowingly. But beneath the surface of her growing enthusiasm, a nagging fear settled. What if they couldn't gather enough people? What if their ideas were too ambitious? Could they really change lives? As the day slipped toward dusk, Claire made a silent promise. She would fight for this. For every voice that had been ignored. For every life waiting to be touched. They began brainstorming a list of potential speakers and activities for the event, excitement filling their hearts again. But Claire felt a thin veil of doubt settle in, the very same doubt that had haunted her before. What if this time the storm became too fierce, drowning out their hope? With her mind racing, she looked at Greg, determination shining in her eyes. We need to be ready for anything. It won't matter how many obstacles we face. We have to see this through. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city, Claire knew they were standing at the edge of profound change. But in the back of her mind lingered a question: if they tried and failed, what would that mean for the hopes of a community waiting for healing? Would they be ready for the storm if it hit? The following morning, Claire woke up with a fiery resolve burning in her chest. Today was a new day, and it felt different somehow. The dim anxiety from yesterday began to dissolve as she sipped her coffee, allowing the warmth to wrap around her like a hug. She pulled out her notes from the meeting, flipping through the pages filled with her scribbled thoughts and ideas. Each line reminded her of why she started this whole journey in the first place. Claire envisioned a community thriving with connection and support, souls intertwined in a tapestry of shared experience. She could practically hear the laughter, the heartfelt conversations, the sense of belonging. As she got ready, she decided that today she would reach out to people who could help turn her vision into reality. With a deep breath, she picked up her phone and began composing emails to local organizations, artists, and community leaders. She wanted them to know about the event, the healing she envisioned. Let us see how big we can make this, she murmured under her breath, her fingers flying over the keys. Later that morning, she met Greg at their usual cafe, the sounds of grinding coffee beans and quiet chit-chat enveloping them in productivity. He looked up, eyes bright as he read her determined expression. I see that glint in your eye. What have you been working on? I've reached out to several local leaders. I want them to be part of our launch event, Claire replied excitedly. This is going to be bigger than we thought. Greg grinned, moving closer. That's the spirit. Let us aim high. If we get them on board, our reach could triple. As they strategized, Claire could feel momentum building. Ideas flowed, making her pulse race and her cheeks flush. They created a vision board, photos of potential speakers, inspiring quotes, even images of large crowds celebrating together. It started to feel real, and Claire allowed herself to imagine the buzz of excitement as people gathered. But then, an unexpected thought nagged at her: the reality of the past when hopes had crumbled like dry leaves. What if this was just another dream fading into the ether? Claire, you okay? Greg's voice brought her back. It's just sometimes I think about what if this all goes wrong, she admitted, biting her lip. Greg placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. That's the risk we take when we try. But if we give up before we even start, that's a guaranteed failure. Let us own our vision together. Nodding, she felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. It was true. Every ambitious journey faced uncertainty, but transformed lives awaited on the other side of fear. With renewed purpose, they gathered a small team of allies from the community: artists, local therapists, even a few musicians who believed in the cause. Their passion was infectious. For every doubt that crept in, Claire felt the collective determination of the group pushing it back. As the days passed, the plans solidified. There was an electric energy coursing through the group as they discussed logistics, marketing, and outreach. Claire spoke about the emotions she hoped to inspire, the acceptance she wanted to foster. But during a brainstorming session that weekend, something caught her off guard: an email response from an important local organization. "Thanks for your enthusiasm, but we can't commit at this time," it read. Just like that, the world felt heavier. Claire's heart sank. What if they're all hesitant to join us? What if I can't convince anyone? What if... Greg's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. Hey, don't let one email derail us. We've got enough momentum to turn this around." He was right, this was just one bump on the road. But as they went back to planning, shadows lingered in her mind, simmering beneath her excitement. The question rose again: can we really do this? And just as she began to take solace in Greg's optimism, another email came through. "We regret to inform you the funds for community projects are minimal this year." As that sinking feeling hit, Claire paused, her breath hitching. Would they truly be ready to battle the storm if it swept through? Slick with doubt and disappointment? With trembling hands, she glanced around at her team, their hopeful faces highlighting the urgency of their mission. The stakes had never felt higher, and the storm was brewing. Would they have the strength to move through the chaos ahead? The room buzzed with energy, but Claire could barely hear it. Her mind raced, drowning out the discussions about sponsorships and timelines. Doubt clawed at her insides, gnawing at the fragile hope she had built alongside Greg and their team. They all seemed so sure, so committed, while she could only feel the weight of the 2 rejection emails piling up. Greg's voice sliced through her haze. "You okay?" She blinked and realized everyone was looking at her. The laughter and excitement that once filled her with warmth felt distant, replaced by the stark fear of failure. I just got a bit lost in thought," she managed, forcing a half-smile. "You've done some amazing work, and this is only the beginning," Greg reassured her, his eyes gleaming with belief. "We just need to adjust our approach. Maybe think outside the box?" Nodding slowly, Claire took a deep breath. "Okay, what if we create a personal appeal story, highlighting how this event can impact individual lives? Sometimes numbers and fancy plans don't resonate. People connect with emotion." The room suddenly sparked with energy again. That was the lifeline she needed. They began brainstorming, bouncing ideas off one another. Someone suggested they create short personal videos to showcase individual stories of struggle and triumph within the community. Claire felt a flicker of excitement rise within her at the thought as night crept upon them. The team stayed late, fueled by coffee and a collective fire. Laptops hummed and the air was thick with the scent of pastries, crumpled papers scattered like remnants of previous doubts. Claire smiled as she listened to her teammates share thoughts and laughter, the tension of earlier fading. But just as Claire's optimism resurfaced, another email notification popped up on her screen. Greg could see her mask of joy falter as she read it. "Claire?" he asked, brow furrowed in concern. She swallowed hard. "It's a request for a meeting. A local business is interested in supporting smaller ventures." "What? That's amazing!" Greg exclaimed, bouncing on his feet. "Yes." Claire's heart raced. She hadn't expected this. Perhaps they were finally turning the corner. With renewed energy, she fired off a response, eager to set up a meeting to discuss possibilities. As the group began to plan this next step, Claire thought about how quickly things can change, how light can flood in after shadows of doubt. She could see the hope reflected in every face around her, and it fueled her own. But later that evening, as the team dispersed and Claire packed her laptop, a nagging thought nestled in the back of her mind. What if this didn't lead anywhere? Deciding to push it down, she stepped out into the evening chill. The fresh air felt cleansing, each breath pulling doubt further away. She glanced at her phone, surprised to find a message from her sister waiting for her. "I believe in you. Don't let the world dim your light." Her heart warmed at the words. She wasn't alone. She had her team, her sister, her community grounding her in this journey. Just as she reached her car, her phone buzzed again. Another email notification. Curious, she opened it. "We're excited to partner with you. Let us set up a call." A wave of elation washed over her. The connection she longed for was finally manifesting, and with it the promise of something bigger. As she drove home, the city lights blurring past her window, Claire felt invincible. Progress was tangible, And yet, as clouds glided across the moon, she couldn't shake the feeling that greater tests awaited. Was it too early to celebrate? The excitement in her chest tingled with dread. What if this was a false dawn? Rescue often came before a storm. Would they be ready when the wind started to shift? Her thoughts raced, and as she pulled into her driveway, Claire realized one thing. This journey was about more than the event. It was about the resilience they forged together in the face of adversity. Exiting the car, determination settled in her bones. She locked the door, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. But just as she entered her house, her phone buzzed again. This time she hesitated. What new news awaited her? Could it be another setback? Or perhaps a key opportunity that could shift everything once more? Claire took a deep breath before tapping the notification. The headline was flashy, one of those clickbait titles meant to draw you in. What now? She muttered to herself. With her heart thumping in her chest, she felt the familiar rush of anxiety mixed with curiosity. Opening the email, her eyes skimmed over the sentences. It was from a local news outlet. Intrigued by the work Claire and her team were attempting, "We'd love to chat about the community impact angle you're exploring," it read. "Your story feels personal and powerful." Claire blinked. Of all the things she could have expected tonight, this certainly wasn't one. Her reaction swung between exhilaration and disbelief. Could they actually be gaining traction? Yet, the cautious voice inside her whispered, was this just another fleeting moment of hope? As she paced her living room, she considered calling Greg. If anyone deserved to share in this moment, it was him. But a nagging thought held her back. What if this was just another false lead? "Maybe I should hold off," she murmured, her feet brushing against the carpet, the fibers grounding her in the moment. "No, Claire, you deserve to share this," she scolded herself. Her mind switched gears and she found her fingers resting over the screen, preparing to type out a response. "Hello. Thanks for reaching out. I'd love to set up a time to talk," she wrote, her heart racing as she hit send. A deep breath washed over her, releasing a burst of both nervous energy and glowing anticipation. She made her way to the kitchen, gathering a glass of water to quiet the flurry of emotions. The night deepened outside, shadows gathering thicker with each passing moment. Claire's mind drifted back to the meeting plan forming so beautifully around her. But as thoughts of how to make the local news piece shine settled like a fog over her excitement, an unease pooled in her stomach. She'd always wondered why good stories, ones that featured people's hardships and triumphs, felt like they were few and far between. At that moment, her phone buzzed yet again, shattering her contemplative state. Another message from her sister flashed on the screen. "Remember, it's those personal connections that make the big picture meaningful. You can do this." A small smile crept up her face as she read her sister's words. But the tension still lingered, a whispering reminder of the vulnerabilities in their journey. Later that night, after she had finally fled the hot glow of her laptop and the daunting task list that followed, Claire settled down on the couch, wrapped in an old blanket her mother had made. She turned on the television, needing distraction, something that didn't demand her full attention. That's when she stumbled upon a documentary about community projects that had failed and been reborn, showcasing ordinary people rising against the odds. The filmmaker's emotional narration resonated deeply. Watching ordinary heroes, their struggles, and their victories lit a fire in her spirit. Claire leaned forward as a group of locals spoke about their project, a grassroots initiative that had been dismissed initially, but later transformed lives. There was something empowering about their determination in the face of rejection. Suddenly it clicked for Claire. What if their story was more than just about funding? What if it could inspire others just like these individuals? Yet, with that realization, the fear crept back in. Would her team be able to connect on such a personal level? The phone rang, jolting her back. It was Greg. "Did you see the news outlet's email? We're not out of the woods yet, but things are moving." With her heart soaring, Claire felt the weight slightly lift. They could do this together. As they spoke about strategy and ideas, her worries transformed into focused determination. But just as she started to envision their media strategy, Greg hesitated. "There's something else I need to discuss. Something I found out earlier today about our local partners. Changes everything." Her heart pounded as she waited for him to continue, the pressure of uncertainty pressing against her chest. What revelation could he have that would alter their course now? Just how prepared are we for this level of commitment? He asked, the weight of his words thickening the air between them. As Claire pondered his question, a new surge of anxiety coursed through her veins. What if the unexpected changes would put everything at risk? The intercom crackled. The line was open and Claire took a deep breath. She sensed she was about to step into uncharted territory. Would they be ready for what awaited them on the other side of this new challenge? Claire could feel her pulse quicken as she waited for Greg to elaborate. The sound of her heart thumping in her ears drowned out the static from the intercom. A million scenarios darted through her mind, each one worse than the last. Claire, listen, Greg said finally, breaking the heavy silence. Our partners, they're struggling financially. It's worse than we thought. They're thinking of pulling out, maybe even before we get this project off the ground. Claire felt her stomach drop. The hope that had been blossoming inside her just moments before now felt fragile and threatened. What does that mean for us? She stammered, trying to keep her voice steady. It means we either find a way to help them stay committed, or we need to start looking for new partners. Fast. A lump formed in her throat, and she closed her eyes, squeezing them tight as if that would somehow block out the reality of what he was saying. All their work, their late nights, the community they aimed to uplift, it all hung by a thread. What can we do, Greg? How can we keep them? Greg hesitated. I believe if we can present a compelling story, something that showcases not just our project but their journey too, it might reignite their passion. People respond to stories, Claire. But we need to be smart about it. She nodded, even though he couldn't see her. It was true. Both their project and the local partners had stories to tell, stories of resilience, hope, and community. But would that be enough? You think we can manage that? Greg pushed gently, sensing her uncertainty. I don't know. But what if we did a joint presentation? We could show not just the data and goals but the people involved, the challenges they face. If we can touch their hearts, maybe it'll motivate them to stick around. Exactly. That's the spirit. If we breathe life into those stories, it could create that emotional connection we need. The tension in Claire's chest began to ease, replaced by a burgeoning sense of purpose. She jotted down a few notes on a nearby pad, ideas flowing now. They could showcase personal anecdotes about the community, interviews with locals, testimonials showing the impact. Claire, we have to move fast. Can we meet tomorrow to brainstorm? Greg asked, urgency in his voice. I really think we can make a difference if we act quickly. Absolutely, she replied, her determination sharpening. I'll reach out to the community tonight. See if I can gather some stories before our meeting. She hung up, her mind whirring with possibilities. With renewed focus, she pulled out her laptop. If they were going to keep their project alive, they needed to dig deep, connect harder than ever before, and shine a light on the very heart of their endeavor. The evening stretched into the night as she crafted an email to local residents. We need your voices, she typed passionately, trying to project hope and urgency. The last thing she wanted was to come off as desperate, yet the stakes were higher than ever. Sleep came fitfully, dreamless and jagged. When morning broke, Claire felt an electric charge in the air. It was time to put their plan into action. She had a mission, and every moment felt like a step closer to either salvation or failure as she prepared for the day. Her phone pinged again. Another email. She opened it to see a response from a community member, expressing interest in sharing their story. Relief washed over her. This was a step towards something big, but it needed to happen quickly. The clock was ticking. Would they be able to gather enough stories, enough strength to rally their partners back to faith? Right then the uncertainty crept back in. What other challenges awaited them? Would the community come together as she hoped? Or would it all fall apart before her eyes? Filled with determination and a hint of fear, Claire took a deep breath. She had no idea what lay ahead, but she knew that if they were going to save this project, they had to dig deeper than they ever thought possible, and she was ready. As she stepped out into the world, the weight of her mission pressed down on her, but so did hope. One story at a time they would rise together. And yet, as she entered the bustling streets, a nagging thought lingered. What if those stories uncovered truths she wasn't prepared to face? Claire stepped outside, the crisp air sending a shiver up her spine. She glanced at her phone, fingers hovering over it. With a deep breath, she called a local community leader, Maria. who had been a steadfast ally throughout the project. "Maria, it's Claire," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I need your help. We're going to present the stories of our community to our partners. Can you gather a few voices to share?" "I can do that," Maria replied. "But Claire, you know we have to touch on the struggles too. People might hesitate to share if they think it'll shine a negative light." "I know," Claire sighed, rubbing her forehead. "But we need to show the full picture. We can't shy away from the challenges, it only makes the journey more real." "Okay, let us do it then," Maria said with resolve. "I'll reach out. Do you have a timeline?" "Tomorrow at noon," Claire said, an edge of desperation creeping in. "We have to act quickly. Can you manage that?" "Consider it done." After hanging up, Claire felt a surge of adrenaline. She quickly drafted a post for social media, encouraging residents to share their stories as well. There was something intoxicating about unearthing the truth. She believed in the power of their collective narratives, even if they exposed vulnerability. As the afternoon wore on, her phone buzzed constantly with replies. Each ping sent her heart racing, full of anticipation. Local businesses were eager to provide testimonials, families were sharing their struggles, and individuals were opening up about how the project had affected their lives, good and bad. Claire felt an overwhelming mix of joy and anxiety each time a new email landed in her inbox. She was building a tapestry of voices. Yet, there was also an ever-looming fear of what these stories might reveal. Would they show hope or despair? Strength or resignation? Hours flew by, and with every story she read, she found bits of herself woven into the fabric of those narratives. There was the single mother whose small cafe brought a sense of community to the neighborhood, the elderly man recounting how he lost his family home, the young artist who dreamed of creating a mural to honor his roots. All their dreams laid bare, and each tale was more poignant than the last. While she sifted through them, one stood out: a letter from a teacher named Mr. Adams who had been working tirelessly to educate children facing hardship. His words leaped off the page. "The future isn't just about facts and figures. It's also about the joy of learning and building dreams." His passion struck a chord with her. She decided to reach out to him directly, wanting to secure a face-to-face meeting for an interview. As she dialed his number, her stomach fluttered with nerves. This was someone who truly understood the impact of their mission. "Hello?" Mr. Adams answered, his voice warm and inviting. "Mr. Adams, this is Claire. I received your letter, and I think your story could be a game-changer for our presentation." They spoke about his experiences, and Claire could feel her heart swell as he painted a vivid picture of their community's resilience. He talked about challenges, but they were laced with hope. His optimism was contagious. When the call ended, Claire sat back, her heart throbbing. This was what she had been seeking: real stories that encapsulated the struggle and triumph of everyday people. She would weave these together for the presentation, hoping to meet the partners with the same spirit each community member had shared with her. As dusk settled, she reflected on the day's accomplishments. But a nagging worry remained. What if these stories weren't enough? The list of potential narratives was growing, but so was her anxiety. Would the community's voice resonate with those who had nearly given up? Determined, Claire pulled up her email one last time. A new message blinking at her from Greg. "Looking forward to tomorrow. But I hope you're ready for the ride. We'll need every ounce of belief." The wave of uncertainty washed over her again, but this time it was eclipsed by a flicker of hope. She wasn't just fighting for her project now. She was championing a community, their dreams, struggles, and every shared heartbeat. What if the upcoming presentation could ignite a flicker of change? Taking a deep breath, she closed her laptop and stared out her window, the streetlights flickering to life. The night felt charged with promise, yet a question lingered in her mind: would they really be able to unearth enough hope to turn the tide? Or were they merely grasping at smoke? Claire stood in front of the conference room again, her heart thudding like a drum. Today was the day. All the stories, the passion, the community's hopes were about to swirl into something bigger than herself. As she glanced at the faces around her, both familiar and distant, she felt the warmth of support surge within her. "All right, everyone," Dr. Matthews began the meeting, flicking through his notes. The atmosphere buzzed with tension and anticipation, the stakes palpable. It was time to present. Claire took a steadying breath, her notebook clutched tightly in her hand. The last couple of weeks have taught us something profound, she began, locking eyes with the hesitant scientists. We've gathered voices from our community, painful and triumphant stories. These aren't just data points. Their lives intertwined, showing us the truth of our mission. As she shared the journey, the stories rolled out like a vibrant tapestry: the single mother, the elderly man, Mr. Adams' heartfelt dedication to his children. Each narrative stitched another layer to her argument, emphasizing how intertwined emotional well-being was with physical health. The eyes of her audience widened, some nodding in understanding, while others exchanged glances, a subtle shift she could sense. Claire's voice soared with confidence, her earlier doubts evaporating. If we connect these threads wisely, we'll not only restore faith in our project, we'll unveil the true face of healing. The room crackled with energy as the presentation wrapped up, and she noticed Dr. Matthews leaning forward, intrigue glimmering in his eyes. Claire stepped back, allowing for questions, feeling the gravity of each moment. One scientist raised their hand. What key metrics can we track to measure this holistic approach? With excitement bubbling within her, she dove into her response, outlining ideas for qualitative feedback alongside quantitative data, hopeful stories that could transform lives. This was met with murmurs, and Claire felt her heart swell. Gradually, the energy shifted from skepticism to consideration, as if the walls that had once felt solid now trembled at the possibility of change. "I'd like to hear from the community," Dr. Matthews finally spoke, his tone softer. "Engagement from our partners sounds critical." With that, Claire felt the tide rise, pushing her to act. "Our community is ready to present their stories. We want to share Anil's experience, hear Mrs. Thompson's journey, and listen to Mr. Adams inspire us with his vision." Dr. Matthews nodded thoughtfully. Then came Greg's voice from the back. "Let us bring this to the next level. I can coordinate the interviews and record them." Claire's heart raced at that thought, excitement intertwined with nerves. Would they really give the community a platform? "Yes," Claire exclaimed. "If their voices echo in this room, maybe we can inspire change. We can show them what healing looks like when passion intertwines with science." The scientists began to discuss logistics, brainstorming ways to incorporate this emotional depth into their research protocol. The energy surged like a pulse through the room, and for the first time, hope blossomed instead of doubt. As the meeting wrapped, Claire's heart felt light. Maybe, just maybe, they were breaking new ground. The community stood behind them, and momentum was building. Days turned into a whirlwind as interviews were conducted and stories layered together. The launch event came alive, a kaleidoscope of energy filling the air. Artists provided music, community members embraced vulnerability, and together they stitched their experiences into a vibrant tapestry of resilience. On the day of the event, as Claire stood with their community, she felt a flood of gratitude. She looked out at familiar faces glowing with hope, their pain transforming into a shared journey toward healing. It was like witnessing the dawn after a long night. The emotional weight of that day surged through her. This wasn't just a program. It was a lifeline, a connection binding them all together in ways beyond measure. Claire stepped up to the microphone, her voice steady. "Today we showcase the strength that resides in our community. Healing is not just a destination. It's a journey we undertake together." The crowd erupted in applause, and tears streamed down her cheeks, not of sadness but of liberation. In that moment, all her fears, doubts, and struggles melted away under the beauty of what they had created. No longer a humble secretary, Claire had transformed into a beacon of hope for her town, and through them, she had reclaimed her long-buried dream of healing. As the celebration began, they laughed, cried, and believed in their shared mission. Claire knew the storms would return, challenges were inevitable, but now they faced them whole, woven together in spirit, heart, and a burning desire to heal. This was just the beginning, and for the first time, she felt ready for whatever lay ahead. Now do not wait another second. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could change lives. You need to leave a like now to feed the helpful algorithm. Comment below with your own feelings about this transformative ending out. And don't forget to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring journey. This is the moment to show your support for the community.